Meeting of the Metropolitan Council. It is Wednesday, April 25th, 2018, and I call the meeting to order. First order of business is the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion is adopted. The next order of business is the approval of the minutes from our April 11th meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from our 11th meeting?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion is adopted. At this point in the meeting, there are members of the public who wish to address the council on matters that are not on the agenda. May do so, but I would just ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. I do see that there are a couple of folks signed up that did not indicate if they wanted to testify. I can call you by name. John, is it Matthews from First Transit? This item, I believe, is actually on the agenda, but if you would like to address the council, you can. Please just limit your comments to 3 minutes, and welcome. If you could state your name for the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yes, this is for something that is on the record, and I would like to take 3 minutes to address that. My name is John Matthews. I'm the Senior Vice President for the Central Region for First Transit. I just wanted to draw attention to everybody and make sure that the process that we are going through for the agency contract is done in a firm and fair manner, in a manner that gives the council and the people that we serve today the best opportunity for the future transportation. I've had the privilege to be part of the Metropolitan Council local transportation community for the past 29 years. I'm one of us here in Minnesota. And as you know, our company has served the agency for this contract for over 15 years. Our local management team and our drivers have grown up serving the individuals in these agency contracts, and they care about the individuals. They care about the staff and the very vulnerable people that they transport. I've spent 29 years being very appreciative of the positive relationship I have with the Met Council staff, and we do the best to serve them well and to serve our customers well. I appreciate the work they do. Today I'm concerned because I believe we have a significant issue that should be addressed prior to the award of the contract. There is a sound business reason that the council should consider delaying the procurement for the agency contract. What happened is due to the HIPAA concerns with providing actual rider addresses, the council only gave providers zip codes for the vendors to route. Vendors, to accurately project the actual cost of operating the service, they really need the accurate route miles and hours in order to pick up where we pick up riders, deliver them to the agency. Deliver them from the agency back home. That happens twice a day. And what's involved is there's deadhead hours and miles tied to the actual distance it takes to pick somebody up. The problem with the zip code method is that it created the need for vendors to make their best speculation on the deadhead miles and hours. And using the zip code methodology could result in up to a 30% discrepancy in deadhead mileage and up to a 45% or more discrepancy in deadhead hours. And this potentially creates the cost estimates that are so inaccurate between one vendor and another that the validity of the cost estimates do not represent the actual cost to deliver proper service. As a result, the evaluation committee's recommendation was based on insufficient information. That insufficient information likely caused significant and inaccurate cost estimates that need to be validated. That is why there's quite a bit of difference between us and our competitor in cost factors, we believe. There is a methodology that would clear up this significant issue. The Met Council has the tools, they have the database, they have the routing software necessary that would remedy this lack of information. Since the Trapeze program, which is the software, allows the council to accurately route each vendor's address and to the destination that either I have or transit team would have as to where their base is located, to the first pickup and the last drops. They have an ability to go in and route this information and give us that information so that we could turn in an accurate bid. Alternately, we could come down to the council in order to address the concerns of HIPAA. We could route on the council computers, not take any of the information and put it out into the general public. And we could do the same thing if the time to do that was something that would burden the Met Council, and we'd be happy to do so. And of course, our competitor would be, I'm sure, happy to do the same thing. This would address the council's HIPAA concerns and and it would make certain that the recommendation that is now being considered had an accurate basis in cost factors for the future. I appreciate your time and your energy, and thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to speak, it looks like, is Mike Richter from Transit Team. Would you like to address the council? I would just ask you to please introduce yourself for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you and welcome.
Will do. Council members, my name is Mike Richter. I'm the president and owner of Transit Team. As I've said at 2 transportation committee meetings now, the information that the council provided as a part of this RFP process did in fact have zip codes for pickups and drop-offs for all clients going to and from the agencies. We were able to use that the zip code information to do a complete analysis to understand what our routes would look like and where they would be in general. A deviation from one side of a zip code to others, maybe in consolidated areas such as Minneapolis, probably doesn't have a huge factor, but maybe as we get further out in the metro, it might. But remember, this is a new contract where we're focusing on the ADA area, which tends to be more densely populated area, mostly located inside of the loop. We feel there was sufficient information for all contractors, all proposers to be able to make an efficient judgment of what type of deadhead would be needed for this service. Additionally, I do want to take this time to also address things that I maybe think were left out during comments from previous transportation committees meetings as well. Obviously, we have a progressive pay scale. I don't need to address that again, but we do offer full benefits. We offer a highly subsidized healthcare plan. Life insurance is and disability insurance is free to all of our employees. Dental insurance, vision insurance, vacation and sick leave time, paid holidays, 401k, including a company match. We offer a wellness program, and then all other sorts of numerous extracurricular type of benefits, such as today we had Employee Appreciation Day, where we gave employees gifts and had a free lunch, and we've done that at both of our facilities for numerous years. Again, I want to reiterate the fact that we think the council did an ample job in providing the information that was needed for all contractors to submit a successful bid. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next person who looks like they've signed up is Bill Wedderbrandt. Would you like to? Bill Wedderbrandt, sorry, sir.
Thank you very much for your time, council members. I'm Bill Wedderbrandt. I'm with Teamsters Local 120, who currently work with First Transit. To me, I have a lot of issues with what's going on. I was here at 2 transit meetings, which was transportation meetings, which were spectacular, and they honored the employees for doing fabulous work, and which I think is fabulous. Unfortunately, after they do that, then next thing you know, we're following up with this metro mobility issues, and we're talking about laying off 100 people who've been doing this job, the oldest person for 19 years, on down to 10, 5, 15, whatever it may be. These people have no guarantees. Transit Team, I think, in everything we've done, has put on record that they will try to hire as many as possible. I have not heard that any of them. I mean, I would like some security that these people who do this job, who service the disability people out there, the vulnerable adults, will get a job. That's very important. I know that the transportation committee, they said it's changed, there's a new contract, and let's face it, change is good. Sometimes the change is good, other times it's not good. But I'll tell you what, the vulnerable adults that get picked up by the drivers who maybe don't even know what the word change is, that don't know anything about this, I feel for them. They've had the same drivers for years. Transit Team put on record that they service approximately 20% of the clients right now. Well, who services the other 80%? I'm assuming it's First Transit, but I don't know that. We need to really focus on the vulnerable adults. I know from my understanding it's approximately a $4 million savings by going to Transit Team, but you know what? The last meeting we had, it may be less, it may, it's just too many maybes out there. Let's get some factual, hard information. Transit Team put on record that they pay their employees $1 an hour for each year of service. Well, you know what? I hope so, and that's fabulous. But I believe that the Met Council needs to get a real hard numbers. Really needs to really investigate this. I hope everything works out great. But in the end, these are our vulnerable adults that don't really understand the change that are at. It's all about trust. It's about trust and of who they're working with. They may not even be able to socially communicate with somebody, but they may recognize a driver they've had for the last 10 years. There's something to be said about that. There's something to be said at the price, whatever that price is. It could be no savings. It could be $5 million of savings. I don't even care, but let's keep in mind the vulnerable adults that this actually impacts. That and approximately 100 people who will not have a job, period.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda, if there's no one else that wishes to address the council, seeing no one, the next item on our agenda is the joint report of the Transportation, Environment, Community Development, and Management Committees to present the Unified Budget Amendment. Councilmember Kramer, will read this item.
This amendment includes proposed changes to both the operating and capital components of the budget. In the operating budget, Metro Transit is proposing a base reduction, $8 million to the bus operating budget as a result of fully funding other post-employment benefits and sustainable cost savings. The Transportation Division is recognizing $3 million in other revenue from MnDOT to cover additional operating expenses for Metro Transit and suburban transit providers from the Crosstown project. The Community Development Division is increasing the Livable Communities pass-through budget by, I think it's more than $8.50, must be $8.5 million to be consistent with the 2018 annual Livable Communities Fund, and is funded with the 2018 property taxes in interest earnings. In the capital component of this budget, the Community Development Division is proposing to decrease the authorized capital program by $15.6 million by closing 26 completed projects totaling $16.6 million and adding $1 million for reimbursement of the Minneapolis Park Board for the construction of the Weber Pool. And it goes on. The Transportation Division is proposing to increase the authorized capital program by $9.2 million, resulting from the routine movement of $15.7 million from the capital improvement plan to the authorized capital program by closing $6.5 million of completed projects. This amendment has been reviewed and approved by the Community Development, Transportation, and Management Committees, and so the motion is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the amendment to the 2018 Unified Budget as indicated in accordance with the tables.
Thank you, Member Kramer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, this is a roll call item. Emily, please call the roll.
Rodriguez,
Aye.
Schreiber,
Aye.
Munt,
Aye.
Barber,
Aye.
Elkins,
Aye.
Northman,
Aye.
Henningham,
Aye.
Latowski,
Aye.
Reynoso,
Aye.
McCarthy,
Aye.
Rummel,
Aye.
Melander,
Aye.
Kramer,
Aye.
Commerce, Chavez, Wolf, Chernoff,
Aye. The motion is adopted. The next order of business is the approval of the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move the approval of second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion is adopted. The next is reports of the standing committees. Councilmember Munch, will you introduce the items for community development?
Madam Chair, the proposed action on item number 2018-84 is that the Metropolitan Council approve the Ridgeway Parkway Regional Trail Master Plan Amendment. There is no recommendation on this action from the committee because there was no quorum at our meeting.
Oh, thank you. Jake, would you like to present a little bit on this item? Welcome to the committee. Jake Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the council, I'll give you a quick intro since some of you have not met me before. I'm Jake Riley. I serve as the sector rep for part of Councilmember Munt's district, District 3. with local planning assistance, and I've been with the council since December, having served with the city of St. Paul for nearly a decade prior to coming here.
Nice.
I know some of you from that. And my colleagues and I are assisting Mr. Mullen with parks master planning at the moment. So I have the Ridgeway Parkway Regional Trail Master Plan Amendment for you. And looking at the Parks System Plan map, the Ridgeway Parkway Regional Trail is located in northeast Minneapolis, near the intersection of Parkway and New Brighton Boulevard. The 2040 Regional Parks Policy Plan also includes a regional trail search corridor, which you can see on this map near that blue circle. That travels through northeast and southeast Minneapolis, known as the Grand Rounds Missing Link. The Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board is preparing a master plan for the Grand Rounds Missing Link Regional Trail and anticipates submitting that master plan to the council for review and approval later this year or next. However, they have a unique opportunity to partner with MnDOT and the City of Minneapolis on a project that will begin this July. In order to be eligible for that regional parks funding, the regional trail segment must be part of a council-approved master plan. So this project is an I-35W construction project. It begins prior to approval of the Grand Rounds Missing Link Plan. And so the council staff recommended that the park board amend the master plan for Ridgeway Parkway, which happens to be adjacent to this.
Great. Thank you very much.
And I can give you a little more detail if you'd like.
Sure.
But the trail, regional trail plan was approved in 2014. This is an amendment to that trail. The improvements run along 35W, takes advantage of those proposed intersection and on and off ramp improvements. This is the cost split, which is perhaps one of the more important parts. The blue part is the part to be fully funded by the Minneapolis Park Board. Pink by the City of Minneapolis. Blue is the City of Minneapolis and the Park Board. The red is MnDOT fully funded, and the purple is MnDOT and City of Minneapolis. Total project cost for the trail improvement is $565,000. The total development cost for the entire improvement project is $17.3 million. We found that the amendment is consistent with both the Regional Parks Policy Plan, Planning Strategy 1, and also other council policies. Therefore, the request is that you approve the Ridgeway Parkway Regional Trail Master Plan Amendment.
Great. So if you just hang on there for just 1 second, can I have a motion, and then we'll do the motion first, and then if folks have questions, we can take it in discussion.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Seconded. Is there any discussion or questions on this item?
I want
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you very much for the
Thank you very
presentation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion is adopted. Member Mutt, would you like to introduce the next item?
Madam Chair, the second item, 2018-85, the proposed action here is that the Metropolitan Council approve the West Mississippi Regional Trail and Elm Creek Park Reserve Trail Connector Master Plan, that we require Three Rivers Park District, prior to initiating development of the regional trail, send preliminary plans to Scott Dentz, Interceptor Engineering Manager at Metropolitan Council Environmental Services, for review in order to assess the potential impacts to the regional interceptor system, and that we encourage Three Rivers Park District to continue coordination with the Minnesota Department of Transportation and Hennepin County Public Works Department in the development of Highway 252 corridor study and amend the master plan as needed to incorporate any changes in the alignment. Again, Madam Chair, there is no recommendation from Community Development because we did not have quorum.
Terrific. So we'll take another staff presentation on this item. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. My name is Raya Smiley, and I'm a senior planner and local planning assistant, as Jake mentioned earlier. Today in front of you is the West Mississippi River Regional Trail and Elm Creek Park Reserve Trail Connector Master Plan. Looking at the system map, this trail is located in northeast Hennepin County and will travel through the cities of Dayton, Champlin, Brooklyn Park, and Brooklyn Center, and it will also connect several regional parks and trails along its about 20-mile route. This trail corridor was split into 4 segments for planning purposes, and you can see on this map kind of the segments and the length of them. Easements, land acquisitions, road reconstruction, and property redevelopments are examples of means for future trail construction when the opportunity presents itself. Here's a closer look at segments A and B. Segment A is fully within the city of Dayton, and segment B is within the city of Champlin. And then segments C and D. Segment C is entirely within the city of Brooklyn Park, and segment D is within the Brooklyn Center and ends in North Mississippi Regional Park. On all of these 4 segments, there are parts of this trail that already exist, and there are parts that will be acquired, or there will be an agreement between the Three Rivers Park District and the city for the management of the trail. The Elm Creek Park Reserve Trail Connector is identified as segment M in the master plan. It's a little less than 4 miles. It travels south from West Mississippi River Regional Trail in Dayton, and it goes to Elm Creek Park Reserve. And the way that the route has been designed is to preserve valuable natural resources in the park area. The minimum acquisition cost for the West Mississippi River Regional Trail and Elm Creek Park Reserve Trail Connector is about a little over $500,000. The total acquisition and development cost for the West Mississippi Regional Trail is about $15 million, and for the Elm Creek Park Reserve Trail Connector is a little over $2.5 million. With that, the proposed master plan is consistent with the requirements of the 2040 Regional Parks Policy Plan, and it is also consistent with Planning Strategy 1 within the Park Policy Plan and other council policies. So then, given that it meets all the requirements, the proposed action in front of you is to approve the master plan, require that Three Rivers Park District send their information to our Scott Dance Inspector Engineering Manager, and then encourage them to continue working with Hennepin County Public Works and MnDOT on Highway 252 corridor study.
Great, thank you very much. Can I have a motion for this item?
Madam Chair, I move the business item.
I second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or any questions on it? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The item is adopted. Councilmember Rodriguez is next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2018-81 same week deals with I-35W at 94 downtown to crosstown project. The project will have significant impact on transit travel time and reliability. MnDOT and the council agree on the value of supporting existing and expanding service to encourage commuters and other travelers to use transit during this project and reduce traffic congestion. A big thank you to MnDOT for providing this funding towards our mutual goal. I therefore move, Madam Chair, that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to execute an agreement with MnDOT to receive $3 million for support of increased transit service during 35W at 94 downtown to crosstown project, and develop and execute an agreement with Minnesota Valley Transit Authority for $1.1 million. Minnesota Valley Transit Authority will also use the funds for support of increased transit service during project construction.
Thank you, Member Rodriguez. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on this item? I would just echo our thanks to MnDOT and staff for working closely with MnDOT and coordinating this very complex construction project on 35W. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion is adopted. Member Rodriguez.
2018-86 same week deals with Metro Mobility Agency service that provides to a defined set of day training and habilitation centers and adult day programs. The current contract expires September 30th, 2018. With the next contract, Metro Mobility has restructured the scope of services to more efficiently meet an increasing demand for trips that begin and end within the ADA service area and for trips that serve the largest of these agencies. This was in response to an FTA requirement. The panel included 2 council staff members, including our Metro Mobility Manager, representatives each from Dakota County, MnDOT, and the Minnesota Council on Disabilities. They evaluated and ranked 3 proposals on technical criteria and financial strength. Transit team had the highest rated financial submittals the highest rated technical proposal and the lowest proposed cost. This business item was debated at length at 2 Transportation Committee meetings, one with quorum and one without. We heard from several speakers representing the Teamsters and First Transit, which currently has the contract for this service, Transit Team, and the St. Paul Regional Labor Federation. Following the speakers, it was clarified that the council does not have a policy preference for labor unions in our procurement process. Some council members expressed concern about 100 drivers could lose their jobs. Transit Team stated that they expect to hire at least 50% of the existing drivers. Staff stated that there is still a driver shortage and that 57% of riders will experience disruption since we are changing the service regardless of the provider. The business item passed 6-2 with 1 recusal.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was
going
going
to
to
make a
say,
motion.
did you need a motion? Sorry.
I therefore move, Madam Chair, that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute a contract with Transit Team to provide the Metro Mobility Agency service from October 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2023, with an option for 1 additional year in an amount not to exceed $31,819,812.80.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Chair, I have a
Any
couple questions.
discussion on this item?
Madam Chair,
Member
Couple questions.
Reynoso.
so I see our procurement department has a few people here, and I have a couple questions with regards to the procurement and the equity lens.
Do you want to go ahead and state all of your questions, and then we can have procurement come up and answer them?
So I know the business item says that states that the agency service supports the outcomes and principles of Thrive MSP 2040 by increasing efficiency, promoting equity in public transportation, and by improving customer service. So this tells me that our department, our procurement department, used an equity lens, which is part of the MSP 2040, in this proposal. Do we know what the outcome of what that lens looked like? Is what I'd like to start off by asking.
Member Reynoso, do you want to just run through all of your?
I'm good with that one for right now.
Mickey, could you come up and respond to that? Thank you. I don't have
Madam Chair, members of the council, the equity lens is actually, I think in this situation, I'm going to go into 2 parts. The procurement department runs a solicitation that is equitable to all proposers or bidders. That's one of the things that we do when we govern that process, is to make sure that everybody gets the same information, they have the same timelines, everybody gets the same opportunities, basically. So what I think you're speaking about is that the equity lens that is applied at the evaluation panel level where they're making decisions. So each, as you know, each proposal is evaluated on its own merit individually by individuals, and then they come together and have a consensus meeting on that process. They do that mostly in part so that they can't influence each other during their thought processes and they don't get into a group think. So that in the end, when they all come together, each one of them may have a different opinion and they discuss the pluses and the minuses of whatever happens. They are only able to evaluate those proposals based on the criterion that we set out in the proposal when we requested them.
Great, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, Mickey.
Member Reynoso.
Thank you. So, during the process, was the question asked by the through the procurement process whether an equity lens was going to be used at the hiring of the drivers themselves? And the reason I ask that, Mickey, is for instance, in environmental services, we require certain percentages for minority-owned businesses and disadvantaged-owned businesses. Do we not require the same for other contracts, service contracts?
Ms. Gusman.
Madam Chair, members of the council, because of the type of work that we're talking about, it's done a little differently. We do have disparate percentages that are applied to different types of contracts, and mainly, as you know, it's in construction because it's usually based on subcontracting opportunities. One of the things that we have been looking at after the disparity study that we participated in at the state level is we're looking at ways that we can increase these opportunities. And those are currently under discussion with some of these, what I'm going to call, say, one-offs, where there's not a lot of opportunity for subcontracting. The panel is expected and is educated on the different lenses that they're supposed to be looking at these proposals at in conjunction with Thrive. Yes.
Madam Chair.
Member Reynoso.
Thank you. So with that being said, this obviously is going to impact our ADA community. Was there any outreach to any of those communities to provide input on the change of service?
Nick, looks like you might want to respond to that unless Ms. Guzman, you would like to respond directly. We can welcome Nick Thompson to help respond to that question.
Madam Chair, members, so the outreach plan for this, because it was a change, started last year. And with this agency contract, we had several meetings with the existing agencies and the new agencies that would be brought in. And we also presented this information through the Transportation Accessibility Advisory Committee. We also presented it last fall to the Transportation Committee. And so we've spent a lot of time with the providers that would be the key, that would be working with our those that are the customers in this agency contract. And then advocacy groups have been part of that too, through the AAC.
So Madam Chair
Member
and Nick,
Reynoso.
so this was presented to TAC as a business item for review or for their input?
Mr.
Madam Chair,
Thompson.
members, this was presented as an information item as we brought this forward. For more, not the RFP process, but the fact that we were making these changes to how this service was going to be made in the region, and the reason for making these changes. And so we brought that forward before there was an RFP issued on the street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other questions, comments on this
Madam
item?
Chair, I just have one last
One last question. Member Reynoso.
So as you know, I chair the Equity Advisory Committee, and one of the main reasons for the Equity Advisory Committee is to advise the Metropolitan Council its work to advance equity in the metropolitan region. It seems to me that this went before TAC, but was never put before the EAC for their review or input. And I'd like to ask that this be sent back to the EAC for their review and input. To be fully transparent, we have people within the ADA community on EAC that would be able to provide input for this, and I think it's important.
Any
So
other?
I'd like to make a motion on that too, please.
So you're making an amendment to the motion. Does he need a second then for that?
Yes.
Anyone second?
Second.
All those any discussion on the motion, the amendment? Member Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Has any procurement at this stage where it's brought to the council, been referred to the Equity Advisory Committee?
Madam Chair, members of the council, no.
Any other questions on this item? Member Barber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would delaying this process now potentially delay the implementation of the service as we roll out with the new provider and the new agencies that are being served?
Madam Chair and members, I would expect that it would. We're on a tight timeline. This existing contract ends on September 30th. This is a process that the recommendation before you is switching vendors. So that is a very complicated process that we undertake on a tight timeline. So I think depending on what the schedule would be, but that would put that at risk.
Madam Chair,
Any
if I
other
may.
comments on this motion?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Member Reynoso.
Thank you. So I asked my colleagues, what do I say to our EAC members? We continue to tell them that the EAC does matter. Their input is important. When we tell them, well, we didn't bring it to you because we're running short on time. I think it was a mistake to never bring it to the EAC and not recommend that it be heard by the EAC. And I'm asking as the EAC chair to to provide, to allow the committee itself to provide input. We have ADA community members that are appointed to provide a voice for the ADA community. And I think it's a perfect opportunity for us to get true input and transparency.
So we have to, I think we've heard the motion and the second. Is there any further discussion on the amendment that Member Reynoso has brought forward? Member McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In regards to delay, so obviously this will delay the process. What happens if it delays the process? Is there any fiscal implications for us?
Mr. Thompson.
Madam Chair, members, this is a service that is required that we provide as a council. So we would have to find a way to have no disruption in service to the customers. And if I could add, Madam Chair, on the how we advised the accessibility community and the members, we structured the panel. That was part of the selection process with that goal in mind. No, I readily admit we did not bring this to the equity committee, but we did bring the Minnesota Council on Disabilities as a member of the selection panel on that, just to get broad representation of the accessible, those with disabilities as part of this, and understand and evaluate providers that were submitted to this.
Can you, Mr. Thompson, can you talk a little bit about when you did take it to the Accessibility Committee, what kinds of comments and feedback you received from that committee?
Madam Chair, if I could look at Christine to bring up, she would have been presenting that last fall.
Thanks.
If I'm recalling, the comments went to change reasoning, similar to as I presented Monday. Concern for information and outreach. I did to November and December of 2017, and then a group that will help us do that.
Thank you. Member Dorfman.
Nick, can you review again for us the reasons for the change?
Sure. So, Madam Chair, members, starting with one, we issued an RFP because the existing contract was ending. So as we started down that process last year, recognizing that we needed to issue an RFP, we evaluated the service model that we had. There's a few things that went into that service model. We had FTA audits of our Metro Mobility system that looked at how we were providing ADA service in the region and whether we're meeting federal requirements. And as you know, in our region, we have kind of two zones. We have the federal zone, which the FDA audits and is interested in because that is where service is required. And then as a state, we've taken that step as a state and said, we want to provide this service to a broader region, the state area. And up until audit of FTA, we were trying to treat those two areas equal. And we were having problems as a service meeting some of the performance targets. So FTA had indicated to us that we must prioritize the federal ADA area first. And so with that, it had to have a higher service guarantee. And then, so looking through that lens, when we looked at the existing agency service area, there were there's 23 agencies under the existing contract. Several of those agencies were outside of that federal footprint. And so as one of the options that we have, we brought forward and said, let's change the agency model. They've been the same rough model for 20 years. Let's change the footprint to just the agencies within that federal area. And so as the RFP was being developed, we created a new model for that. And that was one of it. And then now this new service model starting in October will be fully federally compliant. And that creates some other opportunities for us as we go down and have one that could possibly, as we partner with DHS, if we get some legislative ability to partner with DHS, which is an outcome of the task force, we can maybe bring in federal funds into the system. So there's some opportunities we see in the future, but driven first by the contract expiring, second by a review of the service model and a need for change, and then we made that change.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sort of confused that the co-chair of EAC is bringing this up now. We had this before Transportation Committee 2 times now, so several weeks. So if it was a big priority for the Equity Advisory Committee, I would have expected we would have heard about it sooner. Also, I'm just wondering, as co-chair of the Equity Advisory Committee, it seems to me that you would want to look
Madam
at
Chair,
our.
is she going through the chair or is she
I'm sorry,
directing a
I
question
think
at
I
me?
still have the floor.
Go ahead, Member Rodriguez. You can.
I would think that as co-chair of the Equity Advisory Committee, a better approach would be to look at all procurements that you think would be appropriate to have them review. I mean, for this procurement, we have gone to an advisory committee of the council. We went to the TAP, which seems to be completely relevant. So I think this is a broader study that maybe the EAC could take up, but to bring it forward again at the 11th hour when you had other opportunities to bring it forward, it does not seem to be a burning concern for the Equity Advisory Committee if it's bubbling up now.
Madam
Any
Chair.
further discussion on this item? Member Melander.
So I have concerns about the motion, but not this amended motion. I do have concerns, Ed, though. And this is, you know, and I sit as a fairly newcomer to the Equity Advisory Committee, but I'm not sure that at least, and this is a concern I have from in general all procurements, and I understand where you're getting. I mean, I've got a larger concern, and I'm going to raise questions about inclusiveness when we get to the regular motion. But I just caution us, and I understand as the chair your reason to bring it forward, but I'm not sure that at this time, I mean, unless we've made a decision amongst the council to look at all contractual, you know, awards, that we might be getting ourselves into expanding the role of that committee, even though it's, you know, it's a big part of the council, broader than its original intent. But I do have, Ed, I'm just telling you, I've got some greater concerns that I'm going to share whatever direction this motion does take.
Thank you. I also feel that the Equity Advisory Committee at this moment is in the process of looking at kind of its scope of work and doing kind of a reflective reflection on where the advisory committee has been and is going forward in the future. And given kind of the body and the makeup of the committee at this time, we are actually down a number of members. We have several vacant seats just kind of in the process, and we're waiting to seat the full Equity Advisory Committee here in the coming couple of months. And so I would also say from a process standpoint, I don't know how I would have serious concerns about delaying this item for an Equity Advisory Committee when the committee itself at the moment is in a little bit of transition, knowing that the transition for the contract itself also needs to take some time, making sure that we have enough time between the two contracts to ensure high quality service for our customers. So seeing that, I would maybe take a vote on this initial Member Reynoso's initial motion to refer this back to the EAC. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
No. The motion is not adopted. So we go back to the original motion of awarding the agency contract. Thank you. I was looking for the language. Any further discussion on this item?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I mean, my concern is much broader than just this conversation, and I get, and it's probably inappropriate, but I've got an opportunity to raise the issue, is that, I mean, if in fact we're going to look at an industry, primarily construction, about opportunities, I mean, I really think the council needs to, and I've raised this question during awards, that if it's good for one industry, then I think we need to create those opportunities for all. I know that we can't do this evening, but that's my concern, that we need to have a broader construction or a conversation about when we go out to award, or at least in an RFP, that's one of the concerns or opportunities that we should create. And we may not have the ability to do that, but I think we need to have that discussion, because if we're having it within the construction industry, I think it's fair that we have it in all the other procurements, because, you know, swinging a hammer and running a transit is a great job, but there's other opportunities that we have here in the council that we spend millions of dollars, and we need to create, or at least attempt to create those opportunities, you know, for all.
Thank you, Member Melander. Member Munt.
Madam Chair, I'm going to vote against this action item for a couple reasons. First, I don't want to be responsible for the layoff of up to 100 bus drivers who've been taking care of our customers for 15 years. I don't want to be responsible for issuing a contract that reduces the benefits and the rights that workers have on the job. In my district, I've got 178,000 constituents. The most frequent call that I get from people is that there isn't the continuity in bus driver that they need. When a person has an autistic daughter, for example, it is really important to have a trained driver who knows her and knows her behaviors. I'm also concerned about the two bus drivers that I see in the audience. One of them told me yesterday that she just bought a car and she thinks she might have to return it because she doesn't know if she's going to have a job and if she's going to be able to pay for it. To me, that's not how we treat people who've taken good care of our customers for 15 years.
Thank you, Member Munt. Any further discussion on this item?
Madam Chair.
Member Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support the evaluation panel and staff's recommendation for the following reasons. I believe this procurement was based on criteria that will provide the best service to our customers, and it was fair and competitive. I do not believe that 100 workers will lose their jobs. The demand for our Metmo service continues to grow, and there is a shortage of drivers. We have a long history with both firms, and they provide good service. We have no reason to doubt that transit team will try to hire as many current drivers as possible. And we know that they pay their workers well because we audited both firms, and transit team's drivers made an average of $2.43 more per hour than First Transit. They also have comparable benefits. Transit team is the current provider on the Metmo West area, and like First Transit, they have been a quality Metmo service provider. Finally, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our customers in the region. And due to how Metmo is funded, passing up on almost $6 million in savings could add to possible service cuts and layoffs for our bus drivers, our ATU bus drivers, if we pass up on this $6 million. Because we've got, as you all know, we have a structural deficit we're facing. We go off the fiscal cliff in the next biennium. So I strongly support the motion.
Thank you, Member Rodriguez. Member Reynoso.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As everybody knows, I'm really bad at playing poker because I kind of show my emotions and show what I feel. But as everybody knows, I'm adamantly opposed to this proposal. I think there's better ways we could have done it. But nonetheless, with that being said, Madam Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from voting. Not because I think there's a conflict of interest, because I don't believe there is, but because I don't want the appearance of a possible perception that there's a possible conflict of interest. So I will abstain.
Thank you, Member Reynoso. Any other further discussion? I would all, go ahead, Member, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel for the workers who are going to be losing their jobs. And I'm wondering maybe in the future, for future procurements, we should take a look at and take into account the effect that we have on workers on such contracts such as this, which we will be losing or affecting or impacting about 100 workers. And these workers aren't going to lose their job on account of the fact that they're a bad driver. In fact, they're good drivers. They've done nothing wrong to lose their job. And so, maybe we should in the future look at these procurements.
Thank you, Member McCarthy. I will say that I think I will support this item this evening. I do also feel strongly about making sure that people have the opportunity for good paying wages. I think that kind of hearing the staff testimony and hearing the reports from folks through our audits, but also through the information that's come forward through this process, knowing that there is a significant opportunity for many of the current contract employees to shift over to the new contract, and that those wages and benefits are also highly competitive. and really thinking about the service that we provide overall to our Metro Mobility customers, I think is really important. So with that, I'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
No.
The motion is adopted.
Madam Chair,
Member Dorfman.
can I ask that we be advised or informed in some way about the customers, how the customers who are impacted are notified, how the drivers who are impacted, how they're informed about their employment opportunities and that process, and ultimately, for those impacted drivers, can we be informed who ultimately gets to stay at First Transit, who switches over to Team Transit, and so we get a sense of those impacts in that process moving forward?
I think we can do that. Thank you, Member Dorfman. The next item, Member Rodriguez.
Thank you. 2018-87, same week, deals with amendments to the capital grant agreements with Hennepin County and Hennepin County Regional Rail Authority to provide sufficient funding for engineering phase activities for Blue Line Extension LRT through September 30th, 2018. I therefore move, Madam Chair, that the Metropolitan Council authorize the Regional Administrator to negotiate and execute two amendments. Amendment 2 to the 2017 capital grant agreement with the county's Transit Improvement Board, and Amendment 1 to the cooperative funding agreement for engineering phase with Hennepin County Regional Railroad Authority.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this item? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion is adopted. We move on to other business. We have reports from council members.
Madam Chair.
Member Kramer, sorry.
We had the bond sale today.
Oh, yay.
So this is a report on that. This year's bond sale, we have once again received the top rating of AAA from both Moody's and S&P. Yes. Both rating agencies cited the Twin Cities' strong and diverse economic base, the Metropolitan Council's strong financial position and fiscal management, and a low overall debt burden as factors in the top rating. Today, we sold 3 separate bond issues comprising of $157.3 million in new money. Bond sale 2018B was for $12.3 million in taxable GO wastewater revenue bonds sold at a true interest cost of 3.27% with a term of 10 years. And there were 7 bidders, with the winning bid going to Doherty and Company. 2018C was for $105 million in GO wastewater revenue bonds sold at 3.2% with a 20-year term. There were 8 bidders there. The winning bid went to RBC Capital. And then 2018D, $40 million in GO transit bonds sold at true interest rate of 2.53%, 10-year term. There were 7 bidders, with the winning bid going to Piper Jaffray. All the sale results fell well within the parameters of our resolution passed earlier this month, I think. And the proceeds will arrive on May 23rd, so make room in the safe, Wes. And the information was presented earlier at the management committee. So
Thank you, Member Kramer. This is exciting news that we're maintaining such a high credit rating. So kudos. Thank you. Any other member reports? Member Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I talked about this at the Transportation Committee, but I just wanted to give Metro Transit and especially our drivers a shout out. I was incredibly impressed with Metro Transit's efforts during our historic blizzard a little week and a half ago. It's hard to imagine because it's so nice out today. It was fun to read all of the appreciative comments from our riders on social media. And one of my favorite comments was, shout out to Metro Transit today, the real heroes of winter/life. There were a lot of comments that called them heroes. In contrast to all the respect, there were 2 driver assaults on social media in the last few weeks, and they are distressing, and my heart goes out to those drivers and all the drivers that have been victims of such disrespect. I know Chair Churumoff and I have had several meetings and phone calls to get updates with Metro Transit staff on ongoing, and our police department, on ongoing efforts to keep our riders and our drivers safe. And I'm really looking forward to staff providing all of you an update at next week's Committee of the Whole.
Thank you. Member Latowski.
Great. I just want to talk about 3 events that I have gone to recently, and I think many of you were at some of these. But the Metro Cities annual meeting, was that even earlier? No, that was last week. There were many of us in attendance, kind of trying to meet our colleagues. Also, last week was the presentation in front of the Hennepin County Board of the Transportation Policy Plan. So thanks to Nick and his team for bringing that up. And Councilmember Elkins and I trudged up to the 24th floor. And it was good feedback. And lastly, last night, Environmental Services held a public meeting in my district for the Minnehaha Sewer Project. And so it was a lot of talk of sewer and stuff last night, having gone from the Environment Committee to the neighborhood. I feel fully informed about how we take care of our community's waste. So thanks to the team for that.
Excellent. Any other reports that folks want to share? Member Elkins.
Just participated in a D-line tour that the routing starting in Bloomington, and I followed it up as far as downtown Minneapolis, but it was very well attended by both public officials from the cities along the route and our chambers of commerce. We have very strong chamber support for that project as well.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to testify this morning before the House Transportation Finance Committee about our bonding proposal for $50 million in arterial BRT. And it was nice to be able to have a slide that showed how many people had come out in support of the proposal, including our chambers, Minneapolis and St. Paul, as well as cities along the D line itself and others who support the build out of that system, which is really exciting. Member Mutt.
Madam Chair, it's so good to be back after ankle surgery. It's given me, I have a newfound appreciation for designing communities for access. So often I find that there are not curb cuts or anything to make it possible for me to get up on a sidewalk. So that's my new life lesson. I also want to say that well, when we do procurements, we can't say that it has to be union, but one of the real benefits of working union is it gives workers a voice on the job. And it was the voice on the job with Metro Transit drivers that negotiated the shields around the drivers that we are currently piloting. It's that voice on the job that partners with Brian in order to figure out how we can make workers safe on the job. For me, that's the difference between having a union and not having a voice on the job to solve problems like that.
Thank you. Any other updates? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.